This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Casey Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Bro, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what it means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Down to Dunk. Andrew, still not here, so you're getting me for the 3rd consecutive pod. Also, I have to do the Wednesday pod, so 4 consecutive pods. I'm getting to see what life like Andrew is all about. And boy, isn't it great. Joining me, as always, on Monday morning is Michele Berra. Michele, how you doing?
Doing great. I mean, podcasting at 6:25 my time. What else?
And 10:25 p.m. my time. So we're both miserable about it.
Yeah.
This was tonight. The Thunder beat the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee, 121-105, capping off a 3-0 road trip at Boston, at Detroit, at Milwaukee, all without J-Dub. And also other players missing. You know, Chet didn't play in the Detroit game. I don't think Wiggins played in that game. And then Dort didn't play tonight. I don't think Caruso played in the Boston game. So a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup. And yet this team just gets more and more dominant, picking up their 56th win tonight. And their next 2 are Philly and Charlotte. So let's go ahead and say 58 and 12.
There you go. You had to say it, right?
Although, actually, they should throw the Sixers game.
Yeah, they should. They really should.
Yeah, we need like the full Dylan Jones experience. I want to see like Dylan Jones, alley-oops to Ousmane Dieng. They'd probably still win, but
yeah, it's probably injured Ousmane Dieng as a starter where he cannot move.
Yes.
So that that should be. I mean, the Sixers won tonight, so
I know they did.
That's a great news against Dallas. That is the game of sadness, but yeah.
Unfortunately, the Nets also won. They beat the Hawks, so
yeah,
we didn't really get any distance between them. So, Michele, you watched the game tonight, the game against the Bucks. Revenge for the Cup, first of all, and it was a game that, outside of that like 2-minute period in the first quarter when Shea went to sit down, where the Bucks like erased an 8-point lead. It just like expanded. The lead just kept expanding since then. And they closed the half really strong. And then they came out in the third quarter and basically put the game away within the first like 2 or 3 minutes. And from that point on, it was just holding on to a 20-point lead. The Bucks did make a run at the very end, got it within like 13. But I personally wasn't worried at that point.
Nah.
It just felt like the game was over. I think that was with 3 minutes left. They cut it to 13.
Yeah, it was a moment of the Bucks bench that play hard for probably 2 minutes, and then Shea decided, we should really get this thing done, and it did. I think that this game showed how poised OKC was defensively, and how a game should be played against a team that has 2 very good stars, but it's somehow disconnected. And the way in which I think Stat captured this is by let me trivia you for a second. Cuts. How many cuts OKC had versus how many cuts Milwaukee had
for the game?
Yeah, for the game. Yes.
I'll guess like I don't have no frame of reference for what like a normal amount of cuts that OKC does. So I'm going to say 27 for OKC, and for Milwaukee, I'm guessing it's low, so I'm going to go 6.
You were very close. I'm impressed. It's 24 for OKC and 3 for the Bucks.
Okay.
And it's, I mean, it was not normal for OKC to get so many points off of just elbow actions and stuff like that. But they were extremely efficient. And the second stat that captured the way in which OKC was able to hold off the Bucks is transition. Basically, Milwaukee had twice the amount of transition compared to OKC, but less points on those total. So it's OKC was very sharp defensively. They held off Giannis to a normal game, which is a win, and doing that using Hartenstein as your basically main defender on Giannis, to me, was extremely impressive. And yeah, I mean, when you play this kind of defense, Case and Wallace had a few moments on Dame which were like amazing. He didn't strip him clean, but many times he just put him off rhythm, just touching the ball. Don't allow him to get into his easy 3-point shot off the dribble. I mean, those moments show me how mature this team is and how poised they were tonight, because they were not rattled by anything that the Bucks did. They were just ready, stick to the defensive plan, and offensively they just picked them apart.
Yeah, and I think you're right to highlight Hartenstein and Kaysen, because like big picture, surface level, the fact that they held Dame and Giannis to a combined 40 points. I mean, I don't know what their lowest combo for this season is, but that has to be pretty low for them, like for them to average 20 points apiece. And Hartenstein outscoring Giannis, I felt like, surface level is a very good indicator of like how this night went. Like, not only did he defend Giannis better than I feel like I've ever seen a Thunder player defend Giannis, because Giannis is so difficult to defend. I mean, I think the scariest thing in the NBA is seeing Giannis coming towards you in transition, which Hartenstein was in that position a couple times. And then the fact that he outscores him on the other end, like it wasn't just this like defensive specialist that you're throwing in there. He was so good offensively. And I think he only ended up with, how many assists did he end up with? Yeah, just 3 assists. But I thought his passing was so good all night. And a lot of it were on those cuts that you mentioned, whether it was Joe or Wiggins or Kaysen. He is so good at threading those bounce passes where he's like not even facing the basket and he'll just throw a bounce pass to a guy who's cutting.
Yeah, he had one to Kenrich, which was just a beauty. It did not end up in an assist because Kenrich smoked the bunny, but I mean, he threw some of the greatest look I've seen him throwing this season. So it was on one. I think that the only player that comes to my mind defending Giannis is Andre Robertson. But it is exactly as you mentioned. He is a defensive specialist that you pay on the other end. Tonight, Hartenstein, nope, not the case. I remember that game in Milwaukee when, I mean, Giannis was in full like God mode, and Ray was able to hold him in check. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very few players can do what Hartenstein did tonight, which makes it even more impressive. So he was, and I love these games because you clearly see the teammates trying to find him, trying to exploit what he's doing and reward him for what he's doing defensively. I mean, when Hartenstein gets into these kind of grooves, he builds up. It's usually that. I mean, it started off being hard and keeps going. So it's a great strategy to just having working on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and he was huge on the boards. I can't say enough about the game Hartenstein had tonight. It really felt like his best game as a member of the Thunder when you factor in like what his role was defensively, and then the fact that he had probably one of his best, I'm assuming one of his best offensive games of the season. I mean, he was 11 for 15 from the field, plus 23 team high, which in this case I do think is accurate. reflective of what we saw on the court. Yeah, and the other thing about the passing, the big passing, the Chet to Hartenstein passing. I mean, there were at least 2 assists that Chet got passing to Hartenstein, and that's kind of been the story of that big lineup. Is just that they have meshed so well offensively, and it seems like offensively they just keep getting better and better. And I haven't looked at the updated like 2-man numbers because there's not a lot of, it's still a really small sample, but I'm assuming it's still the case that they have been like very elite when they've been on the court offensively. I don't know what's been going on defensively. I'll look it up as we're talking though.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, the thing that impresses me the most is they produce when Shea's off the court. I mean, it seems like they produce even a little bit more offensively when Shea's off the court, and this is great news for OKC because you are finding combination that work even if your best player is not really playing. On a night where Isaiah Joe was very good, Caruso was on and off, I would say. Wiggins was terrible, like flat out. What is happening with him? Kind of moments. We know Wiggins. We know that he has these moments that corrects to the mean sometimes in the future. Will correct to the mean sometimes in the future. So it's not that it was like easy that every player that was playing with Chet and Hart was just seeing like a wide basket. It was actually the opposite, and they were able to really play well and finding each other for easy baskets. I think that like a lot of people already discussed this. Maybe you and Andrew, the fact that Chet is just scratching the surface of what he can do offensively, and the mid-range jumper being a weapon that he's using very little right now, but he's clearly there. When he occupies the elbow and you give him like an inch to him, he can launch from there. And that is a shot that can really change a lot for Chet, because the 3-ball, we knew it since the beginning. That is a weapon. The pick and pop with Chet is a weapon. Teams are very aware of that and are trying to take it off. The mid-range jumper, that is hard to take away because he has size. You have to guard him with a big man, and if you do, good luck.
Yeah, it's crazy thinking about this Milwaukee team because other than the Lakers when they had AD and LeBron, if I was going to talk about like a team whose size has given OKC issues in the past, I might have thought of Milwaukee. And to see that like completely neutralized. I mean, Milwaukee in comparison just looked so slow and so much older, than OKC. I mean, they still have good defenders, but on any given possession, there are multiple defenders that you can target on that team. And Brook Lopez, he's just not, he's not nearly as mobile as he once was. Not that he was ever like super mobile, but he just looks so old in comparison against that double big lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be very sharp and crisp with OKC, especially when they are into this kind of passing mode. And Milwaukee, I mean, you're right. Kuzma, KPJ, AJ Green, even Trent, Gary Trent Jr. I mean, so many guys that you don't qualify as good enough defenders, and OKC was able to pick them apart. They had one moment that I recognized. Like I was watching the game and I clearly had like an anticipation of what was happening. It was Taurean Prince, single coverage to Shea, and he gave him, I think, like 2 yards of space. I mean, you are done if you do that. You cannot have Shea dribbling towards you and you give him space. Like the defense just took a breather. And against OKC, you cannot do that. And it resulted in a trip to the free throw because Shea charged full speed and Prince wasn't able to close the gap. Because if you give him that much space, my friend, you're done. You really cannot do that against OKC. And it speaks to the fact that when you play against the Thunder, you cannot allow yourself to have moments where say, okay, now can we play conservative right now? No, you can't.
It's funny you brought that up because I was thinking of a similar like what are they doing defensively thing during the Pistons game where Asar Thompson was matched up with Shea coming up the court. But as soon as an OKC player just like pretended to set a screen, they would switch. And so Shea was getting like routinely getting matched up with Tim Hardaway Jr. just whenever he wanted. And I was like, why is Detroit doing this? Like, if there's going to be a player who can guard Shea, he would probably look a lot like Asar Thompson in terms of like his combination of speed and size and strength. And for them to just like kind of allow Shea to get matched up with Tim Hardaway almost that entire game was so confusing. And similarly with Taurean Prince, it's like, haven't you guys watched Shea all season? Like, this is your big plan for defending this guy?
Yeah, good luck. And yeah, I think that Gray Pape in the chat saying that there were possession late in the game where Asar Thompson stick with Shea. Yes, it did okay. Point is, and I was talking to John Hamm yesterday about this, I don't think that there is a single player that you can say, when Shea's matched up with that guy, he really can get going. Maybe Aaron Gordon, maybe him. And that's one player. And of course, there will be moments in games where other players have been successful against Shea in spurts. But the point is, and this speaks to me about the greatness of Shea this season, is that he's not really rattled by anything. He's not really pushed around by anyone. Consistency, and it's just to me that shows how great of an offensive season we are witnessing, and probably don't realizing the extent of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about that Pistons game, but there was a point towards the end of the second quarter where Asar did end up matching up on him, and Shea got the N1. He had like a circus shot, made it, and Asar fouled him. So, yeah, there really is no guarding him, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you can head over to Thinking Basketball. Ben Taylor did a video about this idea of Shea being a foul grifter. And I thought it was a really good video because I think it's very fair.
Mm-hmm.
And the video is less about trying to prove or disprove whether Shea's a foul grifter. It's more just like, this is how he gets his fouls. And the thing that stuck out to me in that video was there were several clips from the perspective of the basket. And you see just time and time again, Shea getting by a defender, and they have to put an arm out to try to slow him down. And he's so good at just immediately reacting to that touch. Like the second a defender's trying to arm bar him, essentially, he will go up for the shot. And Ben Taylor was making the case that, a lot of these should probably be fouls on the floor, but he compared him to Anthony Edwards and showed very similar plays where Anthony Edwards is driving. Guys do the same thing, but Anthony Edwards just blows through them. He's very strong. Obviously, he can do that. But if you're looking for like why one player might get foul calls instead of another, the reaction to that defensive play where they're trying to armbar you between Anthony Edwards and Shea, like that's one of the reasons why. And it's a great video. I love the comparison of, we've always talked about how Shea has this like, zigzag circuitous path that he takes to the rim, and comparing that to someone like MJ or Anthony Edwards, who are either most of the time driving in a straight line or driving kind of in a curved line towards the basket, and how different that is, and how Shea's path to the basket kind of invites even more opportunities to get fouls because of how strange it is. It puts defenders at a disadvantage because they're just not used to guarding a player going like that to the basket.
Yeah, the video is great. To me, the fact that Shea is highlighting contacts is clearly a thing. Like, we should not argue about that. It's also like part of realizing how the game is officiated and taking advantage for your team. So I don't think that is a bad thing in general. We were joking before starting recording about the correlation between Giannis screaming "Hey!" And then getting fouled in the first half of the game. That was 1-1, and then it changed a little bit later because he was screaming even if there was no contact. So every star will do that. Every single one. Is it okay to charge into 3 guys that are standing and guarding you, and then just put your arms up and scream for a foul? No, that's not like trying to score. That's probably trying to draw a foul. Is this bad? No, because the point is nobody or very few people can stay with Giannis in dribble penetrations, and that is because Giannis is an insane basketball player, so insanely good basketball player. So that is part of the game. To me, picturing Shea as something different than Giannis in terms of trying to generate fouls is just it's different in a way, and that video will show you that. But it's not different in terms of every single star know that the more you get to the line, the more efficient you get, and the more points you score. Period. That is very easy. That is math. If you are a 90% free throw shooter like Shea is, getting to the line 9 free throws, that will generate so many points. 1.8 point per trip to the free throw line, assuming that is a 2 free throw trip. So to me, it's really like a poor narrative, the one that is surrounding Shea, because it misses the point that we are, again, watching one of the best guards ever to play this game. I'm not a fan of rankings, so you can put him wherever you want, and he probably is okay. You probably got it right. But he is one of the best, and he's showing off this year. Let's just focus on that, please.
Yeah, or focus on the fact that the Nuggets lost to the Wizards last night, and Alex Sarr had 34 points against Jokic. You can focus on that too.
Tonight he had a block. Shea had a block. I don't remember against whom.
I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
It was KPJ or Kuz? Probably neither. I don't know. But he put up like an outstanding read on the play, and that is part of Shea's allure. He's not like like Harden. Good Harden was insane to watch offensively, but on defense, he had so many moments where you could actually question if he was even on the court. Which Shea, no, you get also highlight play all the time defensively because he cares. Because Taurean Prince did not go off for 50 because he was guarded by Shea. He had a few moments in the game, and that's it.
Yeah, it really is a luxury. I mentioned it last Wednesday with Andrew, but it's just such a luxury to have a point guard, a star point guard who plays defense, because it's rare. It doesn't happen. Yeah. Okay, last thing about free throws, and then we'll get off of them. But I just thought this was a cool stat. I looked at the last 20 MVP seasons, and I'm going to tell you where Shea ranked for 3 free throw stats. So in terms, just looking at the last 20 MVPs, in terms of free throw attempts per game, he ranks 10th. In terms of free throw attempt rate, he ranks 11th. And in terms of free throw attempts per 100 possessions, he's at 9th. So, it's obviously a big part of his game, but you look at the last decade. Embiid, Russ, Harden, Giannis, like those are all the guys who are ahead of him. And so, yeah, the narrative is I think it's starting to change. I think this Ben Taylor video is going to help. I feel like there's more smart people that are going to start talking about this, because yes, he gets to the line a ton, but it is just not that special of a season in comparison to recent MVPs. Like when star guards are MVPs, this is kind of what it looks like. And now you're adding on his defense, which is why I think his case is so good right now. And the fact that they just keep winning.
Yeah, they keep winning. They are at 56. 56. They are one off their record last year, which was like a very, very fun season. The point that they can get to Milwaukee, which was playing good basketball, like full team, no huge asterisks on this one. They were without J-Dub. They were without Lou Dort. Probably would have been better if they were without Wiggins as well, because he's clearly recovering for something. And they blew the door off the Bucks on a second night of back-to-back after a game that was very difficult for them to play because it was a very physical game, taxing on your body. You don't get to do the back-to-back at home like the Bucks did. You come into the game, the Bucks are not playing bad early on, and you just methodically destroy them. That's impressive. It's really impressive. And on Shea, I want to again. I already said that with John yesterday. So if you're listening, also the OKC didn't see me probably get this twice. But to me, the thing that is not discussed enough is that Shea this year is shooting 35% up to yesterday. So probably after this game is a little bit less on pull-up threes, and he is shooting 53.5% on dribble jumpers from 2-point range. That is absurd. That is not a percentage that exists in a non-Kevin Durant stratosphere.
Yeah, I was going to ask what Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant's like high 50s.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have the number. I can look it up while we talk. But the point is, Shea as a guard, with no height advantage on his defender most of the time, which KD has clearly. KD is like, if you are in a KD like argument or topic regarding offense, it means that you are on just the 95 or more percentile offense. Right. And Shea is doing that, adding volume to his 3-point shot. He's shooting like almost 50% on spot opportunities. He's just having numbers that are insane, and we're nitpicking on the free throws. Like, come on, guys, we can do better as a community.
It's a very special season. I want to give you some stats just from Cleaning the Glass about the game against the Bucks. So on offense, 126 points per 100 possessions. Very, very good. 84th percentile. Do you know what game? Because I looked it up because I was like, oh, where does that rank among their games this season? Do you know what team they had their best offensive game against this season? 150 points per 100 possessions. Any guesses?
The Cavs.
It was also the Bucks.
Oh, okay. The other one.
Yeah, it was the other Bucks game, but not the other Bucks game.
Not the other. Yeah.
Yeah. Another stat that I think is kind of representative of how this game was going. 74% at the rim for OKC, 50% at the rim for Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I thought OKC was just so good around the rim, and a lot of that was Hartenstein. And then you mentioned the transition. So in the half court, the teams were relatively close. OKC was 107, Milwaukee was 102, but the points per transition play for Milwaukee, 66.7 points per 100 possessions, which is 4th percentile. That is almost as bad as you can be in transition, which when you have someone like Giannis holding them to that, because Giannis typically, I assume, is very good. I'm assuming his transition stats are pretty good. That was just very impressive. They did a great job getting back in transition during this game. So that's, I would say, one of their most impressive stretches of this season, especially when you factor in all 3 games on the road, all 3 games against Eastern Conference playoff teams, like locked-in playoff teams, and all 3 of those games dealing with absences. Yeah. And they win all 3 convincingly, which is just crazy to me. I mean, once that Denver game hit, and that did kind of feel like a low point of the season, as low of a point as you can have when your team is, 56 wins. That felt like a low point, and then you lose Dub, and you're about to go out on this 3-game road trip.
Yeah,
like, man, if this might be like a 1-2 road trip, and for them to go 3-0 and beat all of these teams, I mean, I really do think this is probably their best stretch of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they had like a bad game against Denver, and by bad means they had bad luck mostly because Denver put up like a crazy crazy shooting game, and that's about it. I mean, after the All-Star break, they had 2 very weird losses, and that's it. Like 2 very weird losses. That it's not something that you can say, yeah, but do you remember that game? Yeah, I mean, it's games that are aberrations. It's not games where you find something structural that worries you. I remember us discussing last year. Yeah, come on, the Giddy stuff. They are trying to find counters, but when teams are getting into an extreme, that can go bad for OKC.
Yeah.
That can really go bad. I'm not saying that there is nothing that can go bad for the Thunder. There is. They can go, they can get into a bad shooting slump. That is bad, but that is bad for any team. The point is, over the past few weeks, after Chad is back came back from the injury, I don't see anything that structurally worries me about this team. They have to be whole. That is something that is really important because they can get by on certain nights playing underman, but it's in a playoff season, in a playoff series, you need to have all your horses. By the way, KD is shooting 56.2 off the dribble on 2-point range.
So he's very close.
Yeah, Shea is 53.8. But that's is, to me, it's just the volume is, I would say, quite different. It's not super different. KD is shooting 187 pull-up jumpers from 2-point range. 333, and he made 187. Shea is at 413, making 222.
Jeez.
So the volume is skewed in Shea's favor. Yes, KD is elite at that, like elite, historically elite. So being close to him, not the same, but close, it's insane.
And some other stats coming out of this game. So Joe Masato had a stat about the Thunder's record against the East. They are currently 24-1 against the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And all 5 of the remaining games against Eastern Conference teams are at home. And 3 of them are Philly, Charlotte, and Chicago. And then the other 2 are Indiana and Detroit. No team has ever gone 29-1 against the other conference, or even 28-2.
Yeah.
So that is, as we get closer to the end of the season, there's going to be more and more stats like this. I mean, the Thunder franchise record, at least while they've been in Oklahoma City, is 60. So we're going to be very close to that soon, breaking that. I guess officially, since we still have the Seattle records, it's 63. Oh no, it's 64 in the 95-96 Sonics. So
it's not a guarantee that they can get up to that, but it's not far-fetched. I think that they are projected to win 67 as of yesterday, according to some model that I don't remember, but it's like maybe just a number projection. But it's in play. I mean, and the loss being one of the greatest game that OKC played during this season against the best team in the East. So that is the one loss that they had. It's when you think out loud about these things, I mean, your mind just wanders. I mean, we don't have to go back and discuss the 2 other games necessarily, but to me, those were extremely impressive. Like the way in which they were playing Boston, to me, was just insane. Doris Burke was saying in the telecast, Mark, they can't let them catch. They are not letting them catch the ball. They are there already. Like, there is nothing easy for the Celtics. Speaking to Mark Jones. So it was like such a great defensive display for OKC. And I know that you can say, yeah, but come on, Boston just had 2 very bad shooting games. True. Probably some part of that is randomness, and you do not get the Celtics shooting that way all the time, let alone in a 7-game series. But OKC is clearly doing something because they are not in rhythm. they weren't in rhythm after the first quarter. They really changed the defense. They really were more aggressive and stretched out to like not allow the Celtics to get to those looks and to select the looks that the Celtics were having. And against Detroit, I mean, again, it was not easy to be part of a fight and just getting the best of it.
Yeah, what did you think about so in the Detroit game, that was the first night of the back-to-back. Keeson Wallace had one of his better offensive games this season, scored 20 points. 9 of 15 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. I feel like it's been a really nice Kaysen stretch. And actually, I looked it up because me and Andrew had done that, who's going to have a post All-Star break jump. And I didn't even think about Kaysen. But as of right now, I went on Basketball Reference, and this doesn't include tonight's game. So this is just the 12 games post All-Star break before the Bucks game. But his true shooting has jumped from 52% to 65%. His points per game, 7.3 to 11.4. His three-pointers back, he's shooting 38% post All-Star break. And overall from the field, shooting 54%. What have you thought about his offense over this most recent, these last 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, the thing that you can clearly see, and you don't need like very trained eyes to do so, is the fact that he is electing to drive more. And he is getting good results out of that. I think that Kaysen has other stuff that we'll get to in due time that we'll probably not see this season really. It's the in-between game, which right now it's non-existent for him. And I think it's by design, not by the fact that he's not capable of hitting jumpers, because you can clearly see that he's extremely comfortable taking threes. But this is some sort of ongoing strategy with OKC, with every, let me call them role players, where you can first, you just do great at the rim and at the 3-point range, and then you add the in-between, because I think that both him and Wiggins are more than capable mid-range shooter. Isaiah Joe is another example where the first year was just, hey, strictly 3 and layups, and right now he's freestyling a little bit more. When the defense gives him the mid-range jumpers, he does not hesitate and take it. So I think that for Kaysen, it's good that he's starting to get into a groove at the rim, because he clearly has good touch, good elevation. He has long arms, so he can really get up and not get always disturbed by the shot blocker. But we are just scratching what we can see from him, because again, I think that in college he used the mid-range jumper a little bit more, and he can do that. Again, the shooting motion to me looks very good for Kaysen. So it will be interesting to see where he finds his shot, because that is for Chet and for Kaysen, that is going to be the question to me. With Dub and Shea, where are the opportunities for those guys? How they can get to 6, 7, 10 shots for Kaysen, and maybe 15, 18 for Chet Holmgren. And part will be Mark handling their rotations, because I think that this year, the fact that they are not playing Chet all that much, it's a little bit extreme, and it's related to the fact that he's ramping back from the injury. But I think that this team will have rotations that allow for different moments for all the players. There will be nights where Wiggins doesn't play and Kaysen plays a little bit more. So stuff like that will clearly help him. But yeah, to me, the driving is the most impressive, but also the fact that he's just not hesitating a little bit on the 3-point shots. That is also something that is very, very important for OKC and for him.
Yeah, the probably the play that kind of showcases his development is the fact that I'm pretty sure it was his first attempt in the Detroit game. So we're like a minute and a half into the game, and he takes Cade off the dribble from the top of the key. And then has this, that scooping layup that he does, hits it high off the glass over Jalen Duren and gets it to go down. And I do feel like he is getting more comfortable with that shot. Now, he did get blocked on that same type of play later by Beef Stew.
Yeah.
But And the size is always going to be an issue to some extent, but it does feel like he is getting more crafty. And that touch you mentioned, you do see those flashes like that play against the Pistons, where you're like, man, if they just keep developing some of these role players, because again, the thing we've been talking about this whole season is like when it goes bad, it's because the offense gets stagnant. And when the offense gets stagnant, it's usually because there's a bunch of guys standing around the perimeter. No one's driving to the rim. If Casing can be one of those guys and be more aggressive, which I do feel like we've seen over these last couple games, that would just be it would be massive for this team, because he's going to be on a rookie scale deal for 2 more seasons. And you can't get value like that. Like that is one of the most valuable things you could have, a guy on a rookie scale deal who can start for you every night if you need him to, and contribute on both ends. I mean, when you start thinking about the number of value deals they have on this team right now, when you think about Wiggins' deal, Isaiah Joe's deal, Kaysen's deal, I mean, they're in such a good situation right now, even knowing that it's like tsunami of contracts is coming in the next 2 seasons. Like they've done such a good job of filling the middle of the roster and the back of the roster with really good, valuable contracts. And we know they're going to add even more with the draft picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One observation that we had last year was, hey, how many bad contracts does OKC have on their books? And the answer is none. Probably Usman Jang is not an asset right now, but I do think that you can exchange it for nothing. If someone wants to, if you tell someone, hey, do you want to try out Usman Jang for free? That is probably something that you can find in the market. Dylan Jones, I mean, again, it's the same thing for last year that on Usman Jang. It's a rookie scale deal. People will probably pay a second rounder for him just to see if there's something there. Every other contract is worth from like maybe a couple of seconds to a lot of first. So to be in that, to have that on your books is so important for what comes next, because I mean, I have no idea how they will juggle the money thing. It's there is the Hartenstein contract, Lou Dort contract, even if they expire when the huge deals of Chad and J-Dub are up to. But then you have other rookie contract. You have Kaysen that we mentioned. You have Nikola Topic that we will see what is about. They will probably have AJ Mitchell on a contract by then, and they have these amazing deals for Isaiah Joe and Wicks that are just bargain. Even if Wicks is not a 20 points player like we saw in February, even if it's on and off, that deal is probably paying a little bit less than the mid-level exception for the entire life of the contract. People will jump on that. Teams like the Warriors, even the Cavs, they would love to have a guy like Wiggins. They will pay to get a guy like Wiggins who can produce on a very little contract. So, I mean, they can really get a lot of value. And this gives them a lot of flexibility.
Speaking of future picks, I did want to give a little update. I meant to do this on the Fry Pod, but Miami has lost 7 in a row. Mm-hmm. They're only a game up on the Bulls in the 9-10 spot. So, and they're now 2 games back of the Magic. And as a reminder, we want Miami to miss the playoffs this year so that the pick next year becomes unprotected. And also Charlotte would get an unprotected pick in 2028.
Do we want that?
I think we do, because we were just talking about contracts. Mm-hmm. I was on Hoops Hype today looking at Miami's books. They are so screwed. Like, this team right now is, relatively healthy. They're terrible. Like, they're 29-38. They're bad right now. And if you look at their contracts next year, 37 guaranteed for Bam, 31 guaranteed for Hero, 28 guaranteed for Wiggins, 26.6 guaranteed for Terry Rozier. And then Duncan Robinson is probably going to be picking up his $20 million option.
Yeah.
You throw in the 9.2 for Kyle Anderson, like they have no flexibility. And they have some good rookies, still on rookie scale deals, guys like Jaime Jaquez or Khalil Ware, Jovic. So they have like no flexibility this summer. They're out a ton of picks. I guess they could trade their 30 and 32 at draft time.
Which don't you see them as a KD destination? I know that it doesn't really change the projection, but if you get like good KD for 60 games, it's not absurd to see them winning 40 next year. I'm not saying 58.
Right. No, it's not that. It's more just like, what is the package that Phoenix would accept from the Heat, knowing that there probably are going to be some other teams that are going to be in this. And I don't know, like if you trade for KD as the Heat, one, you're probably either giving up those future picks, or you're giving up, one or two of your young players, or maybe a combination of picks and young players. And then he's going to be like 37 or 38 at the end of next season. And now you have to give him like one last like decent sized contract. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they're screwed. Like they're kind of locked into this team they have, but maybe they could make a move like that. And for at least 1 year next season, that would not be great for OKC. But
I don't see them just punting on a pick next year. Because I mean, not that you can mortgage your future just to save a pick. That is also bad.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure that even if they are in the play-in, that will necessarily mean that the OKC will not get the pick. I mean, they can very well lose in the play-in and keep the pick this year. So we'll see. It's hard to see them really getting past anyone in the play-in tournament. But maybe you get the Spolstra bump and
maybe
get
they've done it before.
Yeah. That team.
Yeah, I was going to say, Grape 8 mentioned that their plans are focusing on the 2026 free agency, which I was in the Heat subreddit today, and that is kind of what all of their fans are assuming. Because by that point, you get off of Duncan Robinson's money, you get off of Terry Rozier's money. So some things do start to open up a little bit for you. And for OKC's perspective, that'd be great. I would love for them to focus on 2026 free agency. And just like let these expiring contracts run out. Because if you look at the East, like there's going to be some upward pressure on them next year. Like Philly should be something. Toronto and Brooklyn. Like, I'm not saying these are going to be great teams, but Miami's not a great team. They have 29 wins right now. They're barely ahead of these teams as it is.
Yeah.
They're only 5 wins up on Toronto right now, who's taking their asses off every night. So I think that pick could potentially get really interesting. So there's definitely something I've got my eye on. The Philly one, it's getting a little dicey, I'll admit. I think Brooklyn has been like pretty solid lately. I mean, they're 2-8 in their last 10.
What are you doing,
so
Brooklyn?
many of those games are close.
Yeah, but come on, why? Why are we doing this? I was listening to the Athletic NBA show, and I was saying, I mean, tanking clearly doesn't work. But guys, tanking may not work, but if you do it properly and you pick wisely, that works. I mean, that is for some teams, that is the only avenue that works. So I was confused about the fact that we are praising the Blazers, or like, yeah, sure, they are showing something. And if you really want to think that they have something on their team that works, but do you really see the man for Portland on the roster right now? I don't. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. And for Brooklyn, same thing. If you don't get Cooper Flagg, or you don't get like a very nice pick that can really change a franchise, it doesn't work. Yeah. Or it has the slimmest chance to work, which again, not good enough.
Yeah, I think the difference for me is that Portland actually has players under the age of 24 that you're excited about. You know, whether it's Denny Avdia, uh, Donovan Clingan, whatever you think of, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, Tumani Kamara. Whereas like Brooklyn, it's like Cam Johnson's good. He's also almost, close to 30. And it's like then Nick Claxton. And what are they going to do with Cam this summer? Like, I just don't. It doesn't feel like they have any sort of foundation.
Yeah,
that
they just have a good coach.
They do have a good coach, and if they do get Cooper Flagg, which we were texting earlier in the Down to Dunk thread, like, which team do you want Cooper Flagg to go to? I did say Brooklyn would be my first choice. One, because they're Eastern Conference, and I give some credit to the ethical tanking that they're doing. This incredible ethical tank run they've been on, where they're losing games by like 2 to 5 points every night, but still losing. I would like to see Cooper Flagg in Brooklyn, and that would change a ton for them. Like that would make that trade last summer that looks so bad now with the Rockets. You'd kind of just forget about it and be like, who cares? Because the pick turned out to be Cooper Flagg. But yeah, if they end up like at pick 8 and we're talking Derek Queen or like guys in that range, like then I'm out. Have you been doing a lot of draft stuff yet?
No. We've been very slow. We need to pick up. I've seen very few prospects. There is material, especially picking in the teens. There are players that you can clearly see working in an NBA concept. McNeely, for example, who's not showing off great in college numbers. I think that playing for an NBA team, those numbers can be better. VJ Edgecombe is fantastic. If OKC can get their hands on a player like that, that would be mind-blowing for me, because he's a super duper project on offense, but with like some very interesting shooting touch and just insane defense. That guy is awesome defensively. Again, so there is clearly talent in this draft, even if you pick not early. So I think that there are guys that if OKC can get, that could mean a lot in the future.
So closing down the pod, I would like to take one look at the Western Conference standings. OKC is now 13 games up on Houston, who is the new number 2 seed. I feel like every week it's a different number 2 seed. Now it's Houston, who have won 6 in a row. Denver is 3 right now. Memphis is 4. All those teams have the exact same record, 2 through 4. And then the Lakers are 1 game back of Memphis. And then you have Golden State and Minnesota, who have been on just an absolute tear. They've won 15 games combined between them. It's so funny. Like 2 weeks ago, I was so hyper focused on Denver as, when thinking about like Western Conference contenders, and that may still be the case, but man, they have so many issues. And watching these last couple games with Denver, one against like the hospital Lakers that didn't have LeBron or Luka, and then losing that game to Washington. I just don't know if a team, I think their defense right now is somewhere around like 25th. I just don't know how much to really fear a team with a 25th ranked defense. Now, Jokic is going to be able to play 40 minutes plus in the playoffs, although he's kind of doing that right now. And it does feel a little bit like last season, where they were pushing so hard at the end of last season. And then they have that game, which I still don't feel like gets talked about enough. That game 7 at home, up 20, and you lose in the second round. So I don't know. I just feel like all of a sudden the West doesn't seem quite as scary as it felt 2 weeks ago. Now, maybe LeBron comes back sooner than we thought, and all of a sudden the Lakers are clicking again and they look a lot scarier. But yeah, right now I'm down at like 6 and 7, looking at the Warriors and the Timberwolves as teams that are just playing really well and have the, history of doing well in the playoffs and also playing well against OKC. Whereas like now those are the teams that I'm like kind of focused on, a little worried. But I don't know. I think Golden State could get up to they could probably get in that 5-4 range. I mean, they're
Yeah,
only 2.5
they
back
can.
of the Lakers as is.
Yeah, they can. I think that it's likely, even if I don't necessarily know who will be bumped down. But even Mini is not out of the picture for
Not at
a
all.
playoff position, not a play-in position. Every team has aspects that you can fear. I think that Houston has a brand of defense that can really put OKC to test offensively because they defend very well. They have shea defenders, multiple ones, and they can get production everywhere, which is something that OKC not always can cover perfectly well. It's weird, and I know that I will pay saying this, but I don't know if Memphis has it. I see them a team that has talent, but I wonder if they can get up for a series against OKC and really put up a fight. Because yes, they have a good coach. Yes, they have interesting pieces like Triple J, but I don't trust Morant. I don't trust Desmond Bain to be really the scorer that they need them to be in order to keep up with OKC. Denver, you said it perfectly. They can be dangerous, extremely dangerous, because they have Jokic and because they are so tall, which is something that Shea doesn't like. But they also thin. They don't have any margin of error. If they don't play perfect, they will be blown out by the Thunder. The Lakers, the defense is so bad. So it can be so bad. Luka cannot guard right now. In a month, that can be better, but I've seen him getting worse. He's not in game shape. He is not ready to play very good defense. They can feast on bad defenses. They surely can. I wonder if they can hold for an entire series. Golden State, I admit, I need to watch a little bit more of them. I watched very little since they got Jimmy. Them and the T-Wolves, to me, are, as you mentioned, quite scary because they have talent, a lot of talent, both offense and defense, and they can be great for a series. They can absolutely be nuclear, and can be nuclear for a series, and that can put anyone to tests, not just OKC, anyone in the league. So I really think that both those teams right now have they need to show consistency, which they are showing right now. They didn't for the season for multiple reasons, whereas OKC has shown like consistency throughout 68 games, which no other team has except for the Cavs, and that is important. OKC's record right now against good teams is great. They really dress up for good games, and they show that they can beat everybody. Sometimes handily, sometimes going down to the last a few minutes. So it's yes, it's correct that we need to respect everybody in the Western Conference, and that there are teams that can really test OKC. But also realizing that OKC has shown a lot, really a lot this season.
I was looking up what is their offense against top 10 defenses. So it's third, only behind Boston and Cleveland. And then against top 10 offenses, they're still the number one defense. And it might even be a bigger gap because they are at 108.3 and number two is Orlando at 114 against teams with a top 10 offense. So coming up, there's not going to be any games until Wednesday night, which means I have no idea what I'm going to talk about on the Wednesday pod. But Wednesday night, the Sixers come into town. Quentin Grimes and the Sixers come into town. Then on Friday, we get the Charlotte Hornets. So that should be 2 wins. And then there's a really fun 2-game road trip against some teams that they could potentially be playing in the first round of the playoffs, which is traveling to the Clippers, and then traveling to Sacramento. I think it's a decent bet that one of those teams is going to be OKC's first round opponent. Right now, for whatever reason, I just feel it in my gut that it's going to be the Clippers. Clippers OKC in the first round.
Nice first, like testing one. It's be a challenge for OKC.
Yeah, really good defense. But I just think that OKC has the bodies to guard James Harden. They have so many guys they can throw at James Harden, and I just don't trust the rest of the Clippers, although there's a lot of guys that absolutely fit the bill for guys who would blow up in a random series, including Derek Jones Jr., who's already done it once before to us. But you could see you could also see like Bogdanovich averaging like 25 a game over the course of a series. There's that would be that would have a little juice. I think they would like kill Sacramento in a first round series. So we'll see. So that was what we saw tonight against the Bucks. This back-to-back, that's their second to last back-to-back of the season. So we're getting at least a 1 day gap between games for the rest of the season, except when they go to West Coast, play LA and Phoenix. So I guess they play LA at home, and then they play Phoenix the next night. Anything else, Michele? Want to leave the listeners with?
I think just enjoy. Just enjoy before stress and pressure comes up. This is a nice part where you can really relax. Just enjoy Shea, enjoy the guys, and then get ready for postseason.
Yeah, this stretch run is going to be really fun because every game it'll be something new that the Thunder have done in terms of like setting, whether it's franchise records or NBA records, because this team really is going to be an historical regular season team. And we hope a playoff team as well. So I'll see you all again on Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in a few days. Love you.